You're loud and clear.
Perfect. 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 How are you, bro?
I'm already yourself. We
Sorry
finally
about that. Sorry
we
about that
finally
little.
managed to link up.
What's that?
We finally managed to link up. Time was on
Yes.
both our sides.
Oh, finally, man. Yeah, it's a little. It sometimes it can be just a little bit difficult with the kids and stuff like that. You know yourself. You don't have any kids, do you?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Yeah. Where are you from?
Originally from South Africa.
Oh yeah, I'm half South African.
Really?
Yeah, Cape Town.
Nice. Okay. Durban.
Yeah, yeah. You're Durbanite, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I lived in Cape Town from oh, Jesus, I was 16 till I was 20.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went to high school there and I played for Western Province and I was in Craven Week and then I made the preliminary box junior team under 19, but I didn't make it to the final 22 or 24 squad, whatever it was. And then it was actually because of that then I ended up coming back to Ireland because I ended up getting taken over here by Munster Academy. Then Munster Academy had me down there for a bit, but they went bankrupt at the time. So I ended up just jacking Limerick and just coming back to Dublin, basically, and playing rugby up here. And then when I moved to Scotland, I continued on playing over there. Yeah, my father's a Cape Townian.
Fuck, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So did you come over here with your parents or?
No, so my whole dad's side of the family is actually from Ireland.
Okay,
But so my brother and my aunt currently live in Belfast at the
okay.
moment. And I normally visit them every year. But this year I was just like, I just said to the missus, listen, this is a one-way ticket. I'm not fucking coming back like to South Africa. Like
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
is it for me, you know? And yeah, so we're currently in Four Roads at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, man, loving it.
How many years are you here then?
I've only been here since October.
From South Africa?
Yeah,
Wow. Okay, so you've
yeah,
embedded yourself kind of like nicely into the scene, like over here, pretty quick.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't play games.
yeah, yeah. No, fair play. Yeah, that's good, man. I like that. What part of Durban?
Musgrave.
Oh, okay, okay. Have you ever been to Cape Town?
Yeah, I actually studied in Cape Town. I did
Wh-
my marine engineering diploma there.
Whereabouts?
I was staying in Greenpoint. There's a small waterside residence.
Yeah.
And then I was going to Granger Bay campus, CPUT.
Okay. Nice. Yeah, well, I was over in Gordon's Bay on the Indian
Okay.
Ocean side. Yeah, but I went to
Yeah.
school in Somerset West, and
Yeah.
then my brothers and all that they went to school in Stellenbosch Uni. But yeah, so we stayed over that. Like, I did go to town, like as in Cape, 'cause it's far, man. You know, like from Gordon's Bay to Cape Town, it's like fuck. It was like an hour, like or thereabouts. Like if you're gonna go jolling, like at the weekend into a club in town, like
Yeah.
somebody had to be the designated driver, which doesn't happen in South Africa. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like everybody's fucking climbing on the back of a bucky all the way down the N1 to like Cape Town, and like
Yeah.
somebody's had a few dupes on the way down, and like definitely had a few dupes on the way back. So it's like Russian roulette, man. When I think about it now, I was like, fucking, what was I thinking? You know what I mean? But like, life, I always say this to people, it's like, you think shit here can get like wild. Cape Town, they don't give a fuck. Like,
Yeah.
they're crazy. Like, people be drinking brandy and cokes and then just go, yeah, come on the bucky and let's go wherever. Like, and you're like, you've had about 10 brandy and cokes and probably about 2 straw rooms, bro. I'm not getting anywhere with you. But it's wild. But there's no taxis, dude. You know, like yourself, like, I mean, all the taxis are res taxis, like, the high aces with like, subwoofers and shit. They're only for like the
Yeah.
locals, and then if
Yeah.
you get a taxi to town, it costs you an arm and a leg and they're not trustworthy. You know what I mean? It's dangerous. Like I always say this to people, like, unless you actually are staying in Cape Town city center and you can get like a cab property, then that's okay. But you wouldn't dream of getting a cab from like, say, Cape Town to like Stellenbosch or
Yeah.
Somerset West or something. Like, it's just risky, like, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, no, I haven't been back. I haven't been back since oh Jesus, 2017. That's the last time I went back, and I was supposed to go back so many times because I've got so many friends there. But man, it's just so busy, like, bodybuilding and like coaching and like, you can't go to Cape Town for less than 2 weeks. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so long, so the trip is like 11 hours, yourself, like, and then sometimes you got to stop at Joburg or whatever, or you got to stop somewhere on the way down. So it's like, it's like a whole day of traveling and then back again and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like, I keep saying I'm going because my friends are like in the WhatsApp group from Cape Town. They're like, when are you coming? When are you coming? I'm like, yeah, yeah, I'll come, I'll come. But then every time I'm like, something happens, or it's like, I was actually like this close to going to Joburg with Denise for the that pro qualifier they had in December down there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we were going to go down there for that one instead of doing Holland. But man, such is the thing with international bodybuilding and pro qualifiers. It's like, if there's one thing like I've kind of noticed outside of the bigger ones, like your amateur Olympias or your, EVLS Prague pros, like these kind of pro qualifiers, like local chosen, they are looking more for the locals to give the pro cards to. Like we were going to go down to Cape Town, Joburg, and I was just like messaging the event organizer and said, look, I don't want to fly down there with athletes from here. And actually had another athlete down there who was going to do it as well, and like not get a fair look. You know what I mean? Because like it's becoming pretty clear that like national athletes from said country are getting the nod ahead of other athletes. And they were like, no, it's totally fair. There's SA judges, but we have international judges as well. I don't know if it was Tamer or somebody decent was going down as to be head judge. But
Yeah.
then I like weighed it up and it was like 2.5 grand, 3 grand all in. And we were like, no, fuck that. We'll do Holland. And thank God we didn't, because the girl who won the wellness was South African. Like, she didn't look anywhere, shape or form. Like, Denise would have beat her like at 60%.
I was just about to say, you should have went down because she would have
Yeah, I
definitely
know
fucking
that.
cleaned house with
But
it.
then the hardest part would have been losing to a girl who you shouldn't be losing to. And then you've lost and you've made this trip all the way down to South Africa to just be like told some nonsense, basically. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
it's very, very clear like that. And a lot of the shows, man, they're going with if, no disrespect to the people who win it, because they are good athletes, but in my opinion, they are better. You know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
not just speaking that about like, say for example, Denise can beat there, but there's better. Like, just all round, you see it. Like, you know what I mean? Like I think the guy who won the classic there, for example, at Muscle Contest Austria in December, like he's not there was better athletes there, but he's from Austria, I think he's Iranian, but lives in Austria. You know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
disrespect the guy. He's a great bodybuilder, but he's like tiny and didn't have nowhere near as good a physique as some of the other guys. Do you know what I mean? But again, he's out of Austria, so they're giving it to kind of the local guys. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's very, very much a case whereby now at that stage where people have to be very, very, very tactical about what shows they do, to get a fair look in. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we're doing this year. So please God, it works. We'll see
Yeah.
how it goes.
Nice. Yeah. But I'll touch on that with Denise's show just now. I just want to go back. First of all, I just want to say it's fucking cool that I actually heard, because it's been months since I've heard somebody use the word dopes and bucky. Yeah. It's fucking cool to hear that, especially this side of the world.
And renovated Coke, and we could go on. And people are like, yeah, it's really me home, man. If I had mountain quick sisters, you probably would have lost your shit.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's get into this a little bit. So, did you get into bodybuilding because of rugby, or what got you into bodybuilding?
No. So, okay, my father, my father's a very famous cabaret singer here in Ireland. So my father left Cape Town in apartheid, and he was living in the Cape Flats, and he came here and he like made a big career for himself in singing and stuff like that in cabaret. But back in the early 90s, he got involved in a bit of bodybuilding. Now, I say a bit of bodybuilding. He didn't dabble in gear and stuff like that. He just got into bodybuilding because a couple of his mates started going to a hardcore bodybuilding gym up in Dublin in Kimmage. And it was an old KCR gym. It was a bit of a working man's bodybuilding gym. But the old man used to go, like, fancied himself as a bit of a bodybuilder, and was starting to eat the pasta and tuna and chicken and rice and all this kind of stuff. And he used to do a lot of his work up in Northern Ireland in the Troubles, and he used to buy Flex and Muscular Development, because up in Northern Ireland was the only place you could buy them. You couldn't buy it down south, so he used to buy them all because he was into bodybuilding at the time. And I remember the first one he bought was it was either the cover of Flex when Flex had won the Arnold, his first Arnold, I think it was, or it was either that, or it was when Dorian had won the Night of Champions before he won his first Olympia. It was one of the two. I'm pretty sure it was the Flex one, because I just remember looking at the magazine going, hold, like, up until that point, anybody who I'd seen who was jacked was either Rambo or, Arnold Schwarzenegger or Dolph
Jean-Claude
Lundgren
Van
or
Damme.
somebody. Yeah, so I just saw like guys in films, they're jacked. that's just kind of how they are. Because back in the 80s and 90s, I mean, let's face it, like alpha male syndrome was a big thing in the cinemas. Every guy had to be jacked and had to be good at martial arts to be in a film and blah, 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 blah. And then that's how I thought like film and, movie stars were. Then I seen these guys and I'm like, they're not movie stars. I don't know who the hell they are. Well, who the fuck is this guy? And I just remember like Flex, I think it was Flex, just being on the cover of the magazine, and he was on a beach, like Venice Beach, and he was with this bird, and I was thinking, that guy looks like ridiculous. And then I remember the one with Dorian specifically because he had the blonde long hair. And, I remember looking and going, he looks like a Bond villain, like, because he was like mahogany but with the blonde hair, and he looked really steely. Because the way Dorian didn't put on the smiles like everybody else, he was more like, very, very how can I say, serious in all his shoots. And I remember just looking at him going, oh my God, like this guy's unbelievable. And that was the first time I'd ever read a Flex magazine. Oh, I think you lost your connection, bro. It's coming back. It's coming back. Are you there?
You still there?
Yeah. You're back. Yeah, you're. Could you hear me that time I was talking?
No, you froze there.
Oh, I froze. Yeah. No, I was just saying. I think it was the Dorian one my dad got, and it was like when Dorian won the Night of Champions, and I remember just looking and going like, this guy looks like a fucking Bond villain. Like he looks insane. But I'd never seen anybody else outside the movies look like that, and it totally intrigued me. So the old man got the mags, and I just started reading them and read them and read them and read them because I was very overweight when I was a kid, and I struggled a lot with my confidence. I was always big, but I wasn't fat. I was just chunky, and I never really had like a calling to anything. So I didn't have confidence, but the old man was buying the magazines and I was reading them anyway. I must have been about 8, 9, 10, something like that. And then he started buying the big bodybuilding baggy pants and all this kind of stuff, the mad coloured ones. And when he wasn't around, because I was chunky and I could never get into a pair of tracksuit pants that would fit me or make me look okay. And I used to throw these on and think, wow, these are cool. But I couldn't wear them because they were the old man's. So then that was fine. I used to read all the magazines. I kind of started to understand a bit more about bodybuilding and more so understand the superstars, like the Levrons and the Wheelers and the Sean Rays and all this kind of stuff of this world. When I was 16 then and I went to South Africa, rugby was the first thing thrown down my neck. Like, I don't even think I was in the school 48 hours and the head coach had come to me and said, I believe there's an Irishman in this class. But he was expecting a white guy to stand up. He wasn't expecting a coloured to stand up who was like, yeah, I'm Irish. He was like, wait a minute. And then he heard me talking and he was like, oh, this is just weird. Well, he was like, where do you play step prop? Yeah, I'm a prop. Okay, grand. We got a camp coming up and it was in Paul. And I'm like going to this camp and it was under 16s. And these kids looked like they were 21. Like they were from like Paul Roos, Paul Jim, Paul Boys, Rhonda Bosch, all these big schools. The kids were 16 and they were jacked. Like they were massive. And I remember going, what the fuck is going on here? Like these guys are huge. And they were so big, like the schools had to bring like the kids' birth certificates and passports to prove that they were under 16 because they were like guys 6'8" and everything. And I was like, I've never seen, like when I went to a rugby school, I went to Terranure. Like I thought those lads were big, but these guys were just, you know yourself, Afrikaners, they're just built different. They're just, nobody can understand this. Guys are fucking massive. And then when we went to this under 16 tournament, it was a normal thing for guys to train with weights. Like on the school, like on the camp that we were there for the week, the tournament, guys were going to the gym after training, and I was just like, this is crazy. Like I'd never seen this before, but I understood it because, you got up in the morning and it was milli pop and like this and this. And then in the afternoon, it was like flakes, potatoes, blah, blah, blah. And in the evening, it was more of the same. And I'd never seen so much food in all my life. And these guys just eat like machines. And you get into it like, Jesus, I need to start doing shit. So I came back to told my old man, I was like, Dad, we need to get a gym in the house. Like, I need to get big. So the old man got like one of those, kind of those 6 different machines put together, like the old York ones.
Yeah.
And he put that he put that in the garage with the plastic weights. And I started lifting weights like religiously when I came home from training. And I remember this when I made senior in matric in grade 12, and I became vice captain. That whole off season, I just literally went to the gym every day and then like went jogging at the beach every day. And I came back like 114 kilo, but I was just like fit at 114. And I made province and I did Craven Week and all that year. And that was the first year I kind of really got into weights, like really into weights. But into bodybuilding, that didn't happen until I was 22. 22, 23. So I was living in Dublin, wasn't playing rugby. Celtic Tiger had happened and all this kind of shit. And I was working on a building site and I lost my job. Okay, I lost my job and I got really out of shape. For me, like I'd normally be okay, like I'd normally hold a decent level of fitness and whatever. But when I lost the job, I was cable pulling on a building site, lost the job, and I had nothing to do. Couldn't get a job. Literally, this was when everything crashed. Nobody could get a job. You could literally go from one job to another like that at the height of things. It was grand to losing the job and being like, fuck, I've got nothing to do and I can't get a job. So I joined a bodybuilding gym on Angel Street in Dublin and I bought a bike and I cycled in and I cycled out and I hired a personal trainer for the first month just to kind of show me technique because I've just been kind of using machines and crappy weights in my house. So, and as much as I knew a lot about bodybuilding from the mags, I didn't really know how to like train properly. And the whole thing was for me was cycling in and cycling out from Tala to town and back again was to get me fit because I knew I needed to get fit in order to do this. But then he showed me the ropes, like a decent bro split, got me into like eating properly. And I just changed, like I just rapidly changed. And then I decided, yeah, I'm in shape now. So I'm going to go and live in Ibiza for a while. So I decided I'd go to Ibiza and I went to live in Ibiza for 6 months. And that's when I got into bodybuilding real big because over there, like everyone was in shape. Like there was lads from Leeds, lads from Wales, lads from Newcastle. They were all savage. Like, and that was the first time I was really exposed to a lot of good bodybuilders. And there was lads I was hanging around with that were like ex Mr. Britons or, you know, ex NABA class winners and stuff, but they kind of stopped bodybuilding competitively, but were still like, looking the part. And I just loved it, like how they looked. I was like, Jesus, these guys look savage. So then I ended up moving to Scotland after that because I met a girl over there. And I started working out when I went there because I became a chef, something I always wanted to do. So I became a chef. And on my lunch break, there was a gym around the corner and I had it like an hour and a half off. So I just refused to sit on my ass on my lunch break because I knew what would happen. I would sit there and I'd eat me, I'd get fat. So I was like, no, I'm going to start training in this gym. And luckily for me, this gym was a proper hardcore, like old man's gym. And I say old man's gym, it was like spitting sawdust. Like there was ex-NABA Mr. Scotland's in there, like that I didn't know at the time were ex-Mr. Scotland's. There was a guy called Les Aiken in there who'd won the Scottish before a couple of times. Monster of a man. Even to this day, like still one of the biggest amateurs I've ever seen. Huge guy. Gary Wilson and his brother, like these are all ex-Scottish pro or ex-Scottish big amateurs. And they all trained in there. And it was just this, it was just the bare essentials. But you had to literally lift heavy fucking iron. Like, you know, iron that was like literally clanging and banging. The dumbbells had been welded together. They'd been broken that many times.
Yeah.
And these guys made you earn your stripes. They made you, like, you didn't go in there and get a nod from these guys until you were like moving weight. And they knew you were in there regularly. You know, like I would always turn up every day. I would train. And, you know, after a while, they kind of gave you a little bit of, you know, you're doing well, kid, keep it up, you know. And it was like 3 years in there before one of them turned around and goes, yeah, you should probably do a show, man. You know, you don't look that bad. Like, and I was natural. I hadn't taken anything, you know. And there's a guy in there who was natural, who was a natural Scottish champion, Jimmy Blight, and he won like loads of Scottish championships as a natural. And he was like, they're starting this classic class in the UK BFF. He's like, you'd fit in there perfectly. He says, why don't you do that show? And I was like, what show? And he's like, oh, the show up there in the wall. And that's how it was back then. There was no social media. There was no
Yeah.
whatever. It was like you knew about a show from the poster on the wall in the gym. You know what I mean? And it was like, yeah, I had a look at it and I was like, yeah, I can do that, man. You know, didn't fucking know anything about bodybuilding dieting. Didn't know. All I knew was I just had to get lean. I just had to get shredded. And that was it. Like, and I was obsessed at the time with Phil Heath. Like Phil Heath was my idol just because of how he looked. He was so good. And he hadn't even won an Olympia then, but he just was like the new guy on the block. I was like, kept looking at Phil Heath and kept trying to think to myself, if I can look at like the leaner version of him, I'll be doing well. But I didn't have a coach. And I hadn't started my course yet at the time in health. And I did an HND after that in health, fitness and nutrition over in Falkirk. But I hadn't actually started that process yet. And I did the whole thing. I came third out of 20 guys, natural. But that was when I was just like, okay, I don't want to do this again natural. I did well, but like, I just knew like that I couldn't keep doing it natural. And I did a couple more shows natural. I did 3 shows, I think, after that, natural still. I was, getting better. But I knew eventually I would have to go on, and do my thing. And when I did, like, I mean, the first time I did a cycle, it was fucking outrageous. But like, that's, I suppose, when I got the biggest wake up call as to how effective PEDs can be when, utilized, in a certain way. It probably wasn't the best way, and I've talked about this before because I got really bad guidance the first time round. But again, things weren't like they are today, where information was so easily available. Like, nowadays you got Chat GPT, which can literally talk anybody through anything. Whereas like in my day, it was just like the forums, like, UK Muscle Forum, magazines, and the guy in the gym, like the
Well
guy
said.
who
The most shredded guy in the gym. Yeah.
yeah, and the guy in the gym, like, and nobody would ever question the guy in the gym. Like, these guys had won titles, and they looked every bit and were every bit like big bodybuilders. Who would I be to question their, their methods? You know what I mean? Like, if they told me like it's a minute test and it's a minute deck, I'm like, it's a minute test, it's a minute deck. You know what I mean? Like, and just so many of us that started off back then were the same. But yeah, I did the first cycle, and like, I got crazy results. But again, I was thrown in the deep end with too much at the first time round, and I didn't need to be. But I knew then this was for me, and it wasn't because of the gear. I knew before bodybuilding was for me. I loved bodybuilding, but when I seen what gear could do in that short space of time, and how much, if I gave my focus and discipline towards it, how much I could become better. Like, I was just like, there's nothing else I want to do. And I remember like thinking to myself, I don't think I'll ever be good enough to be pro, but I just would like, the aura back then was different about being a good amateur. You see, I think
Yeah.
that's one of the major things that's missing today, is because in the UK BFF days, there were guys that were legends in British bodybuilding, and as an Irish bodybuilder as well. But I was living in England and the UK at the time, so I can only comment on that. But the aura behind these guys was phenomenal. Like, Flex Lewis, like Sean Tavernier, Ant Bales, Ricardo Correa, like there were guys like Folklore, like Tony Bailey, Chris Jones. Uh, these guys were just nuts, okay? And they were all savage amateurs. And they kind of always realized themselves as well, almost, that they'd never turn pro because there was only one pro card. So they kind of had just come to the conclusion that we'll just be good fucking amateurs, and we probably will never be good enough to win that one trophy in Nottingham. But they still turned up every fucking year and were like insane. So the aura of that in itself was enough of a lure for me to go, I don't even care if I'd be good enough to get that trophy because it's so out there. But if I was held up in high esteem as being a good amateur, I'd be happy enough with that. You know what I mean? And that's kind of today, I think what's missing a lot is that aura, because there's so many shows. People have so many opportunities to turn pro in so many places that sometimes the aura of it is just missing. Like the Nottingham days when the UKBFF only had that one pro card, like, and I've been to probably 4 of them, was phenomenal. Like I remember the year Nathan Diasha won that overall. Like, he beat Sasan. Like, and Sasan wasn't even in the overall. Like, it was Nathan, James, Jamie Jahal, Laurie Core, I think Rob Taylor. Like, there were savage bodybuilders. Dean Lesiak. Backstage, it was just like, holy shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Luke Sando. Like, it was mental. But and there were so many good guys backstage, and I was just like scratching my head, going, this is fucking crazy. And yet, like, it took ages for some of them to even get a pro card, and some didn't even get one. Do you know what I mean? And that's how prestigious that was. And now it's kind of like, don't get me wrong, you still have to be fucking very good to win a pro card. But the aura of it, to where it used to be, where it was like, wow, they took that one thing that was available, is kind of gone, and it's sad really, because back then it was like legendary status. Do you know, like when those guys won that, it was like cemented them in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? Whereas now it's dime a dozen. You know what I mean? Which is a little bit disappointing, because it's kind of ruined the purity of it, if that makes sense. And as I said, the cream always rises to the top. It's still very difficult to get a card by any stretch. But with the way it was then, I just wish a lot of people could have experienced that then, now, because then they would understand when they put themselves out there and say, I'm going to win a pro card this year, to how fucking difficult that really is. Do you get what I'm saying? Because they just think that if they do enough shows, they'll get it. Whereas some of these guys were going 20 years and didn't get one. You know what I'm saying? Times have to roll. You know what I mean? And that's how it is. But yeah, that was me up until that point. I stayed in Scotland until I was 2014. Then I moved back to Ireland. After a little stint in Manchester, living there. I'd done quite a few shows up until that point. I came back here to work in finance. And I had previously been involved in a lot in fitness in Manchester, running a gym there. Very, very successful PT, still competing and stuff like that. But I came back here to work in finance, and then I started working out as part-time as a personal trainer at the Coliseum Gym in Ballyfermot, and that's when I started coaching like properly. So I started coaching. I coached Adam Lazaro at that point to win the juniors, and I coached Claire McGrath to win the Arnold Classic in South Africa. She won that then in fitness, and I had Alan Cushion there as well. I think he came second or third that year. So I started like primarily kind of working on as a coach for shows at that year. So in 2014, that was 2015, at the Coliseum. I did that for a while, and then I suppose my heart or my passion really wasn't in it at that point, and I took a bit of a sabbatical from it, if I'm being honest. Then like obviously COVID happened, and I wasn't really involving myself in coaching. It was more word of mouth. If somebody came to me and asked me because they knew I'd done bits and bobs for it, I said, yeah, fine. But then after COVID, because I was supposed to compete a couple of times during COVID, and COVID kept fucking
Postponing the
cancelling the
shows, yeah.
shows. Yeah, and I was working with Rob Taylor at the time, and actually we prepped and had to quit it, and prepped and had to quit it, and it got to the stage where I was just like prepping out the back garden with York weights and bands, and I just like, look, this is ridiculous. And then at the time then my son was born 2020 in COVID, and me and his mum unfortunately broke up about a year after that, and I then met Denise, and Denise was like the biggest, how can I say, breath of fresh air in my life, because here was a person who really kind of like supported me differently, compared to my ex, who I've no, like, I mean, just there's no bad blood there, but it was just different with Denise. Denise understood me. She knew I was passionate about bodybuilding, and she was into fitness as well at the same time. But funny enough, Denise was doing yoga and a bit of fitness at the time, and was a 51 kilo yoga slash like little bit of fitness in the gym here and there, girl, to this behemoth that I'm with at the moment, who's fucking out there squatting 4 plates aside and shit like that. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So would you say, was your ex also into the gym and stuff again?
She was, yeah, she was. But
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
she was never kind of had an inclination as to, get into shows or anything like that. And neither did Denise, to be fair. But when we started Panda Performance, or I started Panda Performance, Denise then had gotten into doing, she decided to do PT courses. Because she loved the gym at that point, because it's infectious. When you start going out with somebody, or you're involved with somebody, and a lot of the time their life, or their some part of their lifestyle rubs off on you, and for the most part in a positive way. You know what I mean? Like, for example, like the girl I split up with in Scotland, like when I broke up with her, and I came back here, she had asked me to put her in touch with someone who could be her coach, because she actually wanted to do a bikini show, which was funny because when I first met her, she hated the gym. And then 7 years later, she was obsessed with bodybuilding and wanted to do a bikini show. And I put her in touch with a guy who's a very, very well-known, recognized Scottish coach, and she ended up marrying him and having 2 kids with him. So it's just like, it's mad, because like when I first met her, she hated bodybuilding. And then it became her life. And now she owns like a massive bodybuilding gym in Scotland. So
Oh, that's
it's kind of,
fantastic.
yeah, it's crazy. Like, because, if you would have said to Denise when she met me, you know, you're going to become wellness champion of Ireland, and you're going to be like, you know, really strong, and you know, fucking, you know, girls are going to look up to you for your work ethic and how much you've transformed yourself and how much muscle you carry and stuff like that. She would have been like, me, like, because she was quite slender and quite small, and you know, she had a good figure, and she would have been, if she would have had it, like at the time, you would have been looking and going, yeah, bikini all day. You know what I mean? But as things go, you know, people gravitate towards, you know, a certain look. It's kind of funny because, you know, how the universe works and stuff, because nobody can ever predict, you know what I mean, how things are going to go, or, you know, for example, like, or where you're going to be, or how somebody's going to, like, you know, meet somebody that's going to change them in a positive way towards something else that they never probably would have envisioned themselves doing. Like, I mean, you know, if you'd have said to Denise when she met me that she would be, you know, champion like that she is now, and you know, she'd be an inspiration to girls and blah 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 because of her work ethic and the muscles she carries and the physique that she has, she probably would have told you, you know, you're smoking some shit, and that's the truth of it. But that's just how it is. Like, I mean, I always in, you know, was bodybuilding and doing what I loved while with Denise. And then when I started Panda Performance, you know, in the summer of 2023, Denise started doing her bits and bobs to get qualified as a PT and stuff, and to learn more about nutrition and training and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, I had kind of had it beforehand in terms of, but it wasn't official in terms of Panda Performance. It wasn't really official. But this was the official kind of start to it, and we did it together, and like, you know, it's gravitated from that to being where it is today, because the two of us have worked extremely hard on that. You know what I mean? But it wouldn't be a success if it wasn't the two of us together. You know what I mean? Like, she's pushed me in such a more positive way to be a better version of myself every single day, and to always, like, you know, backing me. You know what I mean? And like, also she, you know, backed me and had full faith in me to work with her, you know, as her coach, because it's not easy, you know, prepping your partner, you know, that you live with and that is good and that has aspirations to become pro, because there's a very fine line between the relationship, you and her, and then there's the coach, you and her, you know, and sometimes, you know, and it's
Yeah,
hard
I know.
because I have to make decisions that she like might not like, you know what I mean? Like, because if you have your coach and your coach has got nothing to do with you, and they tell you they're dropping this and you're increasing that, and you're like, fucker, you know what I mean? Whereas I do it to her, and she's like straight away looking at me going, you fucking serious? And I'm like, listen, it has to be done. But then there's
Yeah,
like this
yeah,
tension, and there's like this kind of, you know, like this, like maybe not talking to each other for an hour or two until the stuff settles. And, you know, it's, but I mean, look, we did pretty well with it, to be fair. Like, you know, the thing about it was I always knew that once she kind of, and I suppose this kind of goes with everybody, I think, really, there's a certain time in your prep when it just clicks. Like, the first couple of weeks are always sort of a little bit sort of an up and down phase. You know, some people kind of struggle a little bit with getting back into the process of it, or they might sort of like be not really feeling it, like, you know, in terms of how well they know that they're going to do, or how their physique is going to respond, or are they going to get in shape the way that they're supposed to get in shape. So there's a lot of ups and downs, you know, and I've experienced this myself a lot, me personally, because I'd always be like, Jesus, I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit behind or whatever. But the experience has taught me that the more you can just blank all that away and like focus on the daily tasks of doing everything accurately, there'll be a time in the prep where it just sinks and the body just responds. And it's almost like an overnight thing where you just look at yourself one day to the next and go, fuck me, what just happened there? It's almost like you're now in tune with everything. That kind of goes, I think there's a point in coaching where you just see that transformation just happen. And it happens maybe across a couple of days or within a week, where an athlete just goes from there to there and you're like, fuck, what just happened there? And it's like a wow factor, you know, and with Denise, it was very much a case whereby, like, at 6 weeks out from the Derry show, she just changed. Like, almost within a week, it was just like, whoa, okay. And, you know, you run with it, and making changes then from that point on, when they're adapted and they're done, it's almost immediate, the reaction or the response in the physique. You know what I mean? And I suppose that's always the thing for me with as a coach, is that level of communication. with someone, you know, like at 6 weeks out, 4 weeks out, I'm badgering people who I'm prepping, all probably too much, but it's because I want to know, making sure that everything is going according to plan. Everything is the way it should be in terms of them ticking those boxes and keeping that motivation and their mind and their control, you know, where it needs to be. Because there's going to be
Yeah.
days when they are off. There's going to be days where they're quiet and you're worried about them. Are they in the right headspace? Did something happen in their personal life? Did they have a shit day at work? Did they, you know, get up wrecked? You know, it's always that kind of arm around the shoulder or that reassurance or that little kind of, you know, okay, that's all right. Listen, it happened. And how you deal with it then, that keeps everybody on track, you know. And if there's lack of that there and transparency, you could go a while if you didn't do something about it then, to just waiting till the next time you speak to that person. And there's been 3, 4, 5 days of shit that just has now ruined or like has wrecked the process, or it's kind of put a banner in the
Yeah.
works. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I suppose that was the beauty of her living with her, is that if I could preempt or see these things, I can make those changes pretty quickly. You know what I'm, you know what I'm saying? But it obviously it's difficult because we have kids, you know, together, and with Denise's kids, I live with Denise and her kids, and you know, her in the prep, you know, she obviously has to still try and delegate that time to the kids, and we still have to be family and stuff like that, you know, and it can be tough. But especially then when you're trying to make those changes to keep everything controlled and on point, um, and sometimes they can come across as a little bit like, oh, fuck, you know, she's like, oh, Jesus Christ, again, or whatever, but I do have to do this. But we managed it pretty well, to be fair, across the 4 shows that we did now. So this time round, it's a lot different, because we know now like how to do everything the way we need to do it to get to where we need to be, you know, to shut it down this time. You know what I'm saying? And that can be said for anybody who works with a coach consistently through shows, because every prep is going to be different, you know, and how you did the prep the last time won't necessarily be the same way you did the prep this time. And for sure, like, you know, every single prep will be different, but it should be done, or there should be very much an improvement, you know, from the last time. Like, for example, I have Ian at the moment now, who's doing Muscle Contest Ireland this year, but he's also doing Portugal in 9 weeks along with Owen. And, you know, Ian came back last year after a 10-year hiatus, and he'd won Mr. Ireland at NABA, and he was very much a very good bodybuilder back then, but life got in the way, and I dragged him back out, got him back into bodybuilding. And unfortunately, the week leading into his prep, Ian took a bad shot and he got extremely inflamed, and we had to manage a lot in that week to try and bring down the inflammation, bring out the water, and bring his physique back to a competitive look. That wasn't Ian at 80 or not 100%. It was definitely about 65, 70%, but he still managed to second place and still was in first call out at the pro qualifier, which I was blown away by. What we learned then and how we managed things this whole off season and how we are in that right now. Like, he sent me pictures this morning and I just was laughing my ass off. I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. At 9 weeks out from show and 14 weeks out from muscle contest, like, it's crazy, you know? But again, what we did then and what we learned from and the improvements that we made to now, it's not the same prep at all. Like, you know, compared to what it was before, like, because he's on so much more food, doing so less output as what he did before, because he's put on so much more muscle, same as Denise now. So the athletes are starting off in a better position than where they were before. It's the same with Owen, like, you know, like, had to
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
rebuild his physique at the start of a prep, you know, to then bring it all back down dramatically to then get him ready for stage with the shows that we did. Whereas to now, like, where he's grown so much in that short period of time by having so much more food, less anabolics to your body, to now pushing to where he is right now, which is very much at the top end of his cap, much bigger, much denser, much rounder. Yes, there's certain things we can take away from last year's prep that worked, but it's certainly a different approach as well for this year. So it's an improvement again. You know what I mean? That's really what it comes down to. You know, it's making sure that very much fundamentally athletes that have just done shows like last year, for example, like this year now, are coming completely different. You know, like, if they're not improving
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're not, like, don't know them, like, if they can't acknowledge it themselves, like, there's no point. You know what I mean? Like, you need to be making sure that athletes are, especially when you've had them before, are 100% coming back with a different package, taking the critiques from last year, what they needed to improve on, where the weak points were, working on them over that period of time and making sure that they're delivered this time around so that when the critique comes back this time, it's not reflected again from those points from before. You know what I mean? That this time around, if there's critiques, they're different critiques. Do you know what I'm saying? So very, very much on point with those particular athletes I just mentioned. And obviously I've got more, but to bring completely different looks. And that's what it's all about, you know, exciting times, you know, and I don't run the gauntlet
Yes.
with any of my guys. I don't give them train or things like that because I just feel like they're not at a level yet where they need it. And I don't want to expose them to something like that where I feel they're good enough to get away without it. Now, there is certain circumstances where people can warrant that kind of usage, and yes, that's fine. But to me, I think there has to be a certain point in your career when that's chosen because you're pushing towards the envelope of winning a regional, winning a nationals, and pushing for a pro card. But there are guys out there who are running 500-600 milligrams a train, and they're not even competing.
For
They're
sure.
like, it's
Yeah.
fucking crazy. You know what I mean? And I think they just don't understand the negligence of it all. Like, because they're younger or they feel bulletproof or they feel like they can just do it and get away with it because their favorite pro has done it. But what people forget is that pros are pros, not just because they do, but because they can deal with androgens in a different way than me and you. Like they can handle 2 gram of test and not get gyno, or they can handle 500-600 milligrams of tren and not kill somebody. You know what I mean? Like, there's a reason why they are pros, and it's not just because they're genetically well built to put on muscle. A lot of the time, it's because they're genetically well built to be able to handle gear better, you know, and more efficiently, and not run AIs into the ground, and their health markers are still good. You know what I mean? Like, I remember watching an interview where Nathan Dasher says he runs tren all year. I mean, like, if you were somebody like who listened to that, you think, wow, if he can do it, I can do it. But like that, he's Nathan D'Asha. He's one of the most winningest pros in the world. He's like got unbelievable genetics. Like, there are certain genetic components he has that are probably keeping him from getting the side effects or the issues that would come to the most of us or the majority of us for doing that. You know what I mean? But people think that a lot of the time, if they do what said person does, they're going to turn up like said person. But unfortunately, that's not the case. You know what I mean? Like, it does
Doesn't work
not
that way.
fucking
Yeah.
matter, you know, whether you can run 4 or 5 gram a gear because you can afford it. You will not turn into the person that you think you will, because at the end of the day, you just don't have the genetics. You know what I mean? And there's a certain cap or limit to what everybody is capable of. And yes, work ethic, and yes, passion, motivation, desire, discipline, all that kind of shit will determine how far you go. But at the end of the day, the genetics will always be the outlier that trumps everybody when it comes to going to the pros. You know what I mean? And you see it all the time when you go backstage and you see some guy who's just an absolute freak of freaks, and he's literally only training a year or some shit like that, or a year and a half. And you say to him, well, what the fuck did you take? And he's like, I just took some test and I just took some Anavar. You know what I mean? And you're like, that's fucking crazy. You know, like look at Samson. I know Samson personally. You know, I mean, Samson has been around for what, since the UK BFF days, and was winning trophies and stuff like that on fuck all. You know what I mean? And people still to this day think that that man is taking grams and grams and grams of stuff. But I can guarantee you he's not. And again, there's this whole thing about, oh, we're lying or they're lying or they're not. No, they're not. They're just that fucking
Yeah.
good. Do you know what I mean? And that's what they're born to do.
You know that year, I'm not sure if it was James's last Olympia or
Mm.
the one before the James Hollingshead. And he mentioned that prep for that Olympia, he did a total of 600 milligrams a week
Yeah.
that week. No GH,
Yeah.
no insulin, no nothing.
Oh,
People didn't
no,
fucking
no.
believe him.
John, I remember I went over to Samson's gym opening last year in April. He sent me over an invite. Myself and Denise flew over, and I was there with like Sass and Dean White was there, and a couple of other people. Majan Muscle was there, and loads of people. And Samson was off, like completely off.
Yeah.
Everything, like not even running test. And I think he said he was on like week 8 or 9 of his 12-week clear out. And the guy was walking around at the time 330 pounds when I met him, and he was just like, when I gave him a hug, it was like hugging a bag of potatoes. Like, his back was so big and
Yeah.
thick. And I'm like, that, like, I remember just looking at Denise and going, and she was like, Jesus Christ, he's so big. And you came back and say that to people, and they're like, "Oh, why do you believe that? They're lying. They're lying." I'm like, "No, they're
Yeah,
not
yeah,
lying." Like, do you get me? Like, look at what that guy can do in a short space of time, and he doesn't run the gauntlet with everything, but just look at the work ethic that goes into the training sessions, and then tell me if you just think that's all blasting gear and that's what makes. No, it's not, man. You know, like when
yeah,
he had Quinton over there training with him, he left Quinton for dead. You know, in the training sessions because it was that intense with the supersets and the giant sets and stuff like that. But that's not gear, man. That's pure fucking like animalness, you know, and adrenaline and motivation and desire and discipline to be another, to win another Mr. Olympia. That is what it fucking takes. Do you know what I mean? At that level, you need to have that in you. And even the guys who are assisted and are there with him can't keep up. Do you get what I'm saying? So people are just very ignorant about it all, you know, and they think that they can get away with it, and eventually it will happen. And that's when shit happens because people are then using too many things and doing too stupid shit, and there's no need. They just need to realize they're probably going to just
yeah,
reach their cap here, and that's it. You know what I mean? And they're never going to reach the heights that they believe they can. You know?
yeah. I had a situation where, so I don't know if you know this. So I coach other sports
Okay.
as well. So I've got
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah. I've seen
runners,
that. But yeah,
strongmen, whatever
yeah,
like rugby players,
yeah,
rugby players as well. So I was coaching a strongman
yeah,
for this competition once, and this person in the gym was, I don't know, whatever issue they had with this client of mine. Anyway, so they came to me and they're like, "Oh, is he doing this competition?" So I said, "Yes." And they're like, "Oh, you know, he's only that strong because of the amount of gear he's taking." So I said, "Listen here, right? First of all, this person
yeah,
is not taking this amount. In that
yeah,
amount you think they're taking,
yeah,
they're not taking that. Okay. I
yeah,
know because I am their coach and
hmm,
I wouldn't talk shit about it. All right. And second of all, I can
yeah,
give you this man's diet,
yeah,
his lifestyle, his job, his house, his training style, and you
yeah.
still never lift what he'll lift." I
hundred
told him that
percent.
straight.
Yeah, hundred
Yeah.
percent. And like,
I said, this man is built
yeah,
fucking
and
naturally strong.
and the thing is,
Yeah.
there's so many of those people out there, and when they then, you know, bring a certain level of discipline and work ethic and everything else that goes with it to be a top athlete, along with those God-given genetics and talent, they super exceed
Yeah.
everybody, and they look like they
100%.
do.
Yeah.
And people then automatically think that they are on a shit ton of stuff, and that is the only reason why they are as good as they are. And unfortunately, in bodybuilding, that's just not the case. It is very much a genetics based sport that the genetics of the person will determine how far they will go in the sport. And I think if people realize that a little bit earlier on, we wouldn't have so many negative things happening in the sport in terms of
Idiots.
like, you know,
Yeah.
people passing and things like that when they shouldn't be or need to be because they just probably pushed the boat too far when if they scaled it back, their return would still be the same. You know what I mean? Like people think that if they
Yeah.
go to a certain level of a certain amount of drugs, that they will get a certain amount of muscle or look. When if the, and for the most part they don't. For the most part they just get a negative return. And if they scale it back to half of that, it's still the fucking same, if not better. You know what I mean? But they're that ignorant about it that they'll just keep pushing the envelope, push the envelope. And I put up a post a while ago or a story a while ago about this, about like, you know, high levels of drugs being used with amateurs and people passing in things like that. And it was copied and pasted and it was put across by a lot of the guys I'm friends with in the UK scene as well. And a lot of people on the UK scene, as well as people here, had replied back to the story and were giving insights to said people who come back to me as to what some of the cycles of top coaches were being given to amateurs. And I honestly was fucking shocked at what I was listening to. Like we're talking about guys running 3.5, 4 grams of gear a week, and they're not pros. And I'm not going to say who the coaches were who were coaching them, but I was shocked when I heard the names because I was and
Name
and
and shame,
and,
bro.
and
Name and
I was
show. No,
like,
I'm
oh no,
joking.
but
I'm joking.
honestly, I was just like, I don't understand how people could do that consciously and sleep at night. I would literally be up the wall with fear that if I gave that kind of stuff to people, and this is where I put up in the story, the post I put up about blind ignorance to people not outing people. Do you know, like if you've been ran, if a coach has done you wrong from a health perspective and has literally plowed your health into the ground because you've done all this shit and you were told to, and you followed the plan like you were supposed to, because that's what you're paying a coach to do, is give you a plan, and you did that, and now your health is in the fucking bin because of what has happened to you. In my opinion, why are you holding back on not outing this person? It doesn't make sense to me. You don't owe them anything, okay? And if you leave the person, you know, because for whatever reasons, they don't give a shit anymore about you. And they don't give a shit, period. But they don't give a shit about you when you're gone. So why is there's this protective kind of barrier? Oh, I don't want to say who they are. Do you know, people are like, but still, I'm in bits. Do you know what I mean? Like females who lose their reproductive system, like they're not getting their period for fucking forever. You know what I mean? Or people who are left with poor kidney and poor liver health because of one single prep where a person just literally blasted them with everything. I don't get it. I don't understand. And that's for me, one of my main things as a coach is that I will, if I lose a client or if I work with people, they will never be able to turn around and say, oh, he abused this, and this with me. You know what I mean? Like there has to be a certain sense of reason behind it all. You know what I mean? Like people, I've had clients come and ask me, can I take this? Can I take that? And I'll just simply say no. And you could ask them that. And I'll be like, and they'll be like, why? And I said, well, you tell me why. And they'd be like, oh, because I seen so-and-so. But that, okay, but so-and-so doesn't need to be taking all of that. They're just doing that because they're poorly advised. I guarantee you, if we leave that out, you'll still do as well as said person. And I've always been proven right about that. So I want to leave this sport when I leave it with a good reputation and a clear conscience. I don't want to have baggage
Amen.
on my
Yeah.
name where people will be like, oh, fuck that person up. I fucked that person up. Or do you remember that prep? No, God, no. Do you know what I mean? There's enough of that going around as it is. You know what I mean? And really, at the end of the day, there needs to be more solidarity in the industry for that to be happening. And I think the only way that'll ever happen is if people start talking a little bit more about experiences when that has happened to them. Because otherwise, how are we ever going to know? We're not. Do you know what I mean? And it's just going to
Yeah. Yeah.
always keeps getting brushed under the fucking carpet. For what reason, I don't know. But if it happens and it has happened to you, speak out about it. You know what I mean? Because if the coach has nothing to hide, they shouldn't mind. Like, you know, if something be said, because they know, they should know that, well, I didn't do any wrong because I know I haven't done wrong. But if they've done wrong, then they should be sweating it, because this is people's lives we're talking about here. You know what I mean? And it's a fucking big thing. But again, people are not taking enough um, accountability for their decisions. You know, and I know a lot of people that sit there, go, oh, but the person's still at fault because they shouldn't have done that. But yeah, in the moment of things, when you're in a prep and a coach is shuttling you over changes and things like that, you're just like, Roger that, Roger that, Roger that. And a lot of people aren't like actually
Yes.
looking and going, well, wait a minute now, that's a bit fucked up. That's a lot. Like, Jesus Christ, do I really need to do that? And they're not questioning it. They're like, yeah, boss, okay, I'll get on that now. I'll buy that now, blah, 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 blah. Do you get what I'm saying? So like, for me, as far as I'm concerned, I hold myself to a certain level of accountability with all my athletes, and I will not, for any way, shape, or form, pass that. And it's probably to my detriment in a sense of like, I could blast people with a lot more, and they'd look hell of a lot like more, spectacular. But at the end of the day, I'm not in the business of doing that, and I don't think bodybuilding needs to be like that anyway. Do you know what I mean? From a purity standpoint, do you know what I mean? Like, there's a sense of it where it's just turned into chemical warfare, and it's lost
Yes.
a lot of its naturalness, and what it aspired to be to people before, to look a certain way. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because now we have the Nick Walkers of this world and stuff like that. That's not bodybuilding to me. You know what I mean? It's just a freak show. Whereas I want to see somebody like a Quentin Araya, or a Mark Hector, these kind of people who still allude towards size and mass and aesthetics, but with what we love the most from the 90s and the 80s, which is pure aesthetics and bodybuilding. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that's what the sport is built on. That is the foundation of the sport, and it's fucking lost,
Yeah. So I coach a lot of female clients,
Yeah.
especially in the bodybuilding industry. And I'll probably say about 70% of them that have come to me, I've had
Yeah.
to fix their health first before I can
Yeah.
actually start off
Yeah.
season with them.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah.
I've had a lot of clients. I've done a lot of consultation calls with girls recently, say over the last 6 months, that have come to me from their coaches, be it here or abroad, that have like wrecked them, to say the least, PEDs. I'm left scratching my head at the end of the call going, holy shit, how are these people still in business? Because I'm like, Jesus Christ, if that was me and that had happened to somebody else who was with me, I would be panicking right now, you know? But there doesn't seem to be that level of acceptance with these guys. And I remember Christian Pro Physique and Jake Watts were talking about it before on the Flop Gear podcast when they mentioned about American Pro Olympia coaches coaching like girls who had then gone to them and how long they had been running certain PEDs for. And there was girls running Anavar for like 8 months. And I'm like, what in the name of fucking God is going on? But again, when that coach is putting up something like a sick transformation or a win or a trophy or a whatever, a pro card, and other people are looking from the outside and going, oh, well, that guy's fucking deadly. But the price that that athlete has paid to get there and then what they've done to do that is never talked about. Like it's just literally
Yeah.
just not never spoken about. It's the most unspoken about thing in bodybuilding is PEDs and females and PEDs, because it's such a grey, dark area that like people don't want to get involved in it. But when you hear what like some of these people are doing and what they're taking, it's fucking crazy. And I honestly, like now, because of us working with Denise and working with other female athletes, and I try to keep things as low and as minimal as possible, because at the end of the day, they're built different to men. And again, like you have a fucking sense of responsibility and due diligence as a coach to allow these girls to still be females after what they've done. Do you know what I mean? Instead of causing these serious complications that'll be maintained in the long term to them, and some of them are not fixable. You know, and where would you be from a conscious standpoint then after that? I don't know. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah. No, is it a conscious thing or is it just a pure ignorance thing? Because I shit you not, I know a coach, his methods of coaching females is half the dose of men.
Is what?
That's his fucking method of coaching. Half the
Yeah,
dose of
yeah,
men is what you
yeah,
give females.
yeah, 100% believe that. Yeah, 100%. And like again, this is where I go back to with the loyalty thing. A lot of the girls aren't with those coaches anymore, and yet they're still loyal. You know what I mean? And I'm like,
Yeah.
just fucking say, because you know you're saving somebody else from going down that road. Do you understand what I'm
Facts. Yeah.
saying? Like, if you out that person and make just tell it like it is, you are going to save a lot of girls grief by going down that road and wasting their money and fucking up their health, because you've ousted somebody
Yeah.
who probably, if you are the front runner to do it, other people will link in and go, you know what, that fucking happened to me. Oh yeah, that happened to me. That happened to me. That's not a coincidence. You get what I'm saying? And then these people will be held accountable for what they do. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, because we are not health practitioners. We are not doctors. We are not medics. We are going and learning the ins and outs of PED usage from literature, experience, reading, you know, running protocols very, very lightly to see the influence of them when working, say, with a female athlete, but having the knowledge in the background to understand it, okay? And then to see the outcome of it, and then to take the information and to acknowledge it and to note it, you know. But there's guys out there who are spitballing just dosages that don't make sense. They're not meant
Yeah.
for females. But again, it comes down to, if they are given these things, they know that the fucking transformation or the look is going to like super exceed when that person started, and it's going to look crazy for the gram, regardless of
Yeah.
what the outcome is. Do you know? And then only afterwards, when the dust has settled, is that, and that person cannot get their health back to where they were before, are they asking the questions. And for the most part, the questions can't be answered by that person. And they were told, like, oh,
Yeah.
that's just
Trust
how
me.
it is. Or that's what,
It's
yeah, that's
bodybuilding,
what
bro.
it is.
Yeah.
That's just get with the program type of thing, which is
Yeah.
absolute utter
Yeah.
bullshit. And again, these people are leaving these coaches, and they're not fucking talking about it. You know what I mean? And they'll come to somebody like me for consultation, or you for consultation, and they'll be like, oh yeah, I had a coach, but I won't mention who they are, or I won't say what happened. You know, I'll just tell you, like, this is what I was told. Like, just fucking tell people, so that you save somebody else the trouble of going down that road as well. Do you know what I mean? Because it doesn't have to be that way, and it shouldn't have to be that way. And when you listen to good enough coaches, and I do feel in the UK and Ireland, we are more health-based to a certain extent than the US. I think a lot of the coaches in the US are very negligent when it comes to drug usage. Yeah,
South Africa's the
particularly
same
with
too, man.
females. I do feel like the kind of, your Callum Rastics of this world, and certainly like for me, I think Cal's a great educational coach from that perspective of how he treats his athletes and how he, manipulates drugs to get the best out of them from the littlest amount possible. If there's somebody who I would allure to for that kind of information and knowledge, it would be Cal, because he speaks facts and he knows what the fuck he's talking about. And for me, it's good because he's also kind of that kind of like unsung leader of the UK bodybuilding scene when it comes to coaches, to kind of drip feed that information down to them. So we have somebody like him who is teaching people the right way of doing things rather than the wrong way. You know what I mean? Whereas like in America, there's a lot of fucking like cowboy coaches that are just, literally cowboys, and, they're giving people crazy protocols, and it's like no coincidence that the death rate over there in bodybuilding is extremely high. You know what I mean? From that, crazy protocols, So I think over here we are more in tune to keep things a little bit more respectable, but there are certain people out there who do take the piss. You know what I mean? And in my opinion, like, I don't believe anybody should show any loyalty to that. If they were fucking hard done by, or and something was done wrong to them, I think they should talk about it. 100%.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. You've actually given me an idea for a future podcast,
Mm.
but we'll chat about it afterwards. Okay. I just want to move away from the drugs topic now. I want to get into where did the panda name come from?
That's a mad one, actually, because the panda one was, and I just, for me, like back in the day, like people used to kind of like laugh at me because I used to be like grazing and eating food all the time. I can't remember who it was said, or I was like the panda, the way he just sits there and eats all the time. Like one of my mates, I think it was. And then when I was just like doing like the name for the Instagram, when I eventually did Instagram, I was just like, well, I can't really call myself the panda. I don't know why I just didn't call myself Steve Hart or something like that. Like more some people just call him by the name. But I just thought to myself, do you know what? I says, and you know this because you're like colored like me and you come from South Africa. Like, like I always say this to people because people kind of don't understand this. Like in South Africa, colored is it's a race of people. Do you know what I mean? So like, and people are like, really? Is that not racist? I'm like, no, it's actually their way of saying that you are colored. It's your brown. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm very much kind of cool with who I am, and I'm no, like, no racial bias, obviously, but I'm like, no, I'm cool with who I am. I know I'm brown. You know what I mean? I don't deflect from that. So I'm like, well, fuck it, I'll just call myself the Brown Panda. But the thing with the Brown Panda was like, and the funny thing about it is that it became so much of a thing, got such of a name for me and a nickname to people, that now when people see me at shows or at gyms and whatever, nobody calls me Stephen. Like, I don't even fucking think they know what my real name is. They just go, oh, it's the Brown Panda. It's the Brown Panda. Do you know what I mean? And it's funny, like, because it caught on so well. And then when I started introducing myself then on the story, I'd always do, it's your boy B Panda, it's Brown Panda, whatever. And people would kind of be like,
Yeah. Yeah.
now people expect it. You know what I mean? Like, so if I don't
Yeah.
do it, they're like, wait a minute, you didn't do the Brown Panda thing, And this maddest story, I won't say who the person is, but it was really heartwarming for me. Was a couple of weeks ago there, a friend of mine, he messaged me and he said to me, his partner's son, I think he has autism, or he has some sort of learning difficulty or something to that effect. I'm not too sure what it was, but he doesn't really kind of talk that much or whatever. And he's like, sometimes he can be very quiet and stuff in his speech and stuff. But my mate shows him like me on Instagram when I'm talking, and he's like coming up. And when I would do my first video and say, it's your boy B Panda, like that, he would show him the videos, and he's been showing them for me for a while. So he sent me a video going, oh, he loves like your stuff, and he showed him a picture, and he did my part, and he goes, hey, Instagram, what's up, it's your boy, and your man took over and goes, it's your boy B
Man.
Panda,
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
That's cool.
And
Yeah.
he said to me, because he said to me, he's like, you don't realize how special that is, because he's like, the kid actually doesn't really talk that much. Like, and he's very, very shy with his words and stuff, but he's like mad about you and he's following you and stuff like that, because I show him the stuff. And I was just like, wow, you know what I mean? Kind of got me. Do you know that kind of way? And like, the thing is, bodybuilding for me it's my life. Okay. I absolutely love bodybuilding, but I love that And I don't mean this, this is not in a big headed way, but I mean this like in a positive way, that I feel like I'm at a stage now where I'll put up stories or I'll put up training or I'll put up something about myself, and I'll get people coming back to me and say, bro, that really meant a lot to me today, what you said, that hit home with me. Or, bro, I took what you said, your training advice about, how to do this and this and this, and I adapted it. And oh my God, it's amazing. Or, bro, I was listening to what you were saying about this supplement and I started using it. And it's like, you get what I'm saying? And I'm like, it's such a good thing because you're having such a positive effect on people's lives, whether that be for a training perspective, or they look up to me because, they admire my work ethic, or they like me as a person on Instagram, or they like me as a coach, or whatever the case may be. It's something I never envisioned that I would be in the position to do when I started bodybuilding. Like when I just
Yeah.
started bodybuilding, I just wanted to lift weights to look good, and I don't mean look good in an ego way. I wanted to not look in the mirror and see the fat kid that I saw all those years that had a confidence issue. And I probably still look in the mirror today and still look at that guy and still think to myself, oh, Jesus, you're going down that road again. When I'm clearly not. But it's something that still keeps me motivated to be still improving, even at 42, because like bodybuilding is one of those things that you can take with you forever. You know what I mean? Like it's not like a boxer who has to give up, boxing or rugby, where you just can't do it anymore, or, whatever. You can bodybuild to your 60s, to your 70s or whatever. You know what I mean? And still keep yourself in relative shape, but still love the day to day of it. Do you know what I mean? And right now, with the platform that I
Yeah.
have and the people that I coach and the people that follow me and all this kind of stuff, like it's great for me to be able to give out a positive message, whether that be from, again, from a nutritional standpoint, a supplementation standpoint, a life standpoint. Do you know, like, because I've been through a lot in my life and I've lived in a lot of different countries and I've experienced a lot. And my clients will tell you that I try and also not just be a coach to them, but I also try and be like a life mentor to them, to try and teach them
Yeah.
certain things that in their lives they to look out for, or things that they can expect, because you will get let down. You will have your heart broken. You will feel like you were shit on, but it's how you deal with it, afterwards, that will define whether you're going to keep going on and pursuing your own dreams and, still help people along the way, or whether you will become defeated in the fact that you've, gotten this negative, feedback, or, certain person let you down, or you got your heart broken, or you got disappointed, or whatever. How you deal with that then will define you as an athlete and as a person in general. And that's one thing that bodybuilding is great at, is it's teaching us not just discipline, but how you come back from setbacks, because everybody will deal with
Yes.
setbacks in this game. You cannot
Oh, yes.
100% ever aspire to be the best version of you unless you don't. There are setbacks, and how you deal with that setback is what will determine what kind of a character and what kind of a champion and what kind of a person you will become. Because a lot of people are very much to this day throw in the towel syndrome. Oh, this happened to me. Oh, fuck it, I'm done. Or I got injured. Oh, fuck it, I'm done. You know what I mean? Like instead of working around it and having a more positive reflection on the situation and looking at the best of what you can bring out of it, they've already been defeated in their actions. You know what I mean? And this is why I try and drill kind of that into my clients, is to, you will suffer, you will endure, you will have setbacks. Do not fail. If you fall, remember how it felt when you were there, and then how you dealt with it when you got out of there, because then you will know not to ever go back there or let that happen again. And if it happens, you will deal with it in a much more profound and better way than you did the first time. You know what I mean? And a lot of them are young, so they respect that. You know what I mean? And I suppose that is the benefit of having somebody who's been doing this for nearly 20 years, is because there's a lot you can teach people outside of just bodybuilding to make them better people, you know? And some people like that and some people don't. And that's fine, because, coaching is very much a relationship bounded thing. Like if you don't have a good relationship with your coach, you are not going to be a good bodybuilder. You know what I mean? If you cannot
100%.
get on with your coach on a one-to-one level, on a personal level, on a friend, not even a friendship level, but if you don't respect them, and if you don't look up to them, and if you don't think like highly of them, or at least appreciate them, like what's the point? Like you have to have that
Yeah.
rapport with them and understanding, so that when they tell you something and they're badgering you, you understand that it's for your benefit because they care. There is enough coaches out there who don't care and who are spitting just the same repetitive shit at every client that they get because they're just looking at the money in their account. They are not looking at you as a whole, as a person. The amount of clients that I have coached over the last couple of years that have had coaches who have literally copied and same plan from another person to that person, for this person to come to me and say, oh, I found out off 2 or 3 people who were getting coached by the same guy, that we had the same diet and we had the same this and we had the same that. And I'm like, well, that's not with me. So when you
Yeah.
come to me, you get everything individualized towards you. And within straight away, they are like, oh my God, I'm responding, I'm changing, I'm this and I'm that, because this is based on you. You know what I mean? So they know then that I
Yes.
care. There's a level of respect there. They know I will go out of my way for them. Like I train with my clients, you know, like I train with my athletes, not my lifestyle guys, but I train with my athletes. I see them in the off seasons. In my prep clients, I see them like coming up to the show 8 weeks out. Like see them once a week. You know, if it's not a session, it's an in-person session or an in-person, posing or whatever. Um, but they know that I will travel to wherever it is. Like, you know, Leighton was down in Tralee last year, and every week from 6 weeks out, I was traveling to Tralee to see him. 3 hours there, half an hour posing, 3 hours back, you know, say 7 hour trip. You know what I mean? Like his fees don't cover that. You know what I'm saying? Like you add up the money that it cost me in the diesel to go down to Tralee and back and down and back and down and back. His monthly subs don't cover that. Okay. But I care,
Yes.
which is why I did it in the first place. And more importantly, he respected me a fuckload for doing that. You know, so if I told him to do something now, he will do it because he knows I'm there for him when he needs me to be, you know? But if he doesn't see the same actions from me in a sense of like, yeah, I'm not really going to drive all the way down there, bro. You can drive up to me, even though you're the one in prep. That's not going to flow. And he's just
Yeah.
going to be like, well, I'm
Yeah.
the one who's on death's door here, and I got to drive 3.5 hours to see this guy. Why can't he kind of meet me halfway or come and see me? Do you get what I'm saying? So if you're doing these kind of things for people, you are building a foundation of respect and loyalty and understanding. That means that the next rodeo, they know what you're about, you know what they're about, but they will put the fucking work in because they know that you've been there for them. You get what I'm saying? But other people, if you're not seeing that from your coach, you're not going to aspire to be the best version of yourself because you're like, well, why would I bother? He doesn't really care with me. You know, he's just not really that bothered by me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So that is a
Yeah.
very fundamental thing to coaching, is getting the best relationship with the type of person that you're working with straight out the gate, you know?
Yeah. I always say that you can
Mm,
hire any coach that you want, right? But if you're in that coach can have
mm.
the Mr. Olympia game plan. He can get you from amateur to Mr. Olympia. But if you two
Yeah.
don't mesh,
Like
it's never
Chris
going to work.
Aceto, who in my opinion is the best coach in the world. I remember watching an interview with him where he talked about like how he doesn't, like when he initially talks to certain like athletes to take them on, like if he knows straight off the bat he's not going to get along with you, he doesn't coach you. He's just like, no, to be honest with you, I don't really feel like this is working out between the two of us because we're just not clicking, you know, because
Yeah.
that spark has to happen fast. You know, in order for things to move, it has to happen fast. If it's a delay in communication, response, respect, everything else that goes with it, you are just going around in circles all day long. And it's like eventually
Yeah. Yeah.
something will crack and they're just going to either turn around and say that where they're at is because you're not good at your job, and which is not the case. It's just there's not continuity there between the two. And if that happens, it needs to be called out straight away and just say, look, I don't think we're a good fit. There's probably another coach out there for you that is. You could probably, and do it in such a way that it's, managed from both sides, that it's respected. And yeah, cool, I feel the same. There's no bad blood there. Do you get what I'm saying? And then you can move on and work with somebody who who you do get on with, because when there's that chemistry there, shit happens quick. You know what I mean? And that you get,
Yes.
and then it becomes fun, and you invest yourself as a coach into said person so much more because they are loyal to you, but they also, there's a friendship there brewing and you get along well. And yes, you still have to come down on them as the coach and do the things that need to be done, but they know that you're behind them. 100%, and they'll give it 100%.
Yeah.
And bodybuilding is
Yeah.
so easy when that happens. Like it's not a fucking difficult sport for the most part. That in itself it's easy to manage somebody in a prep situation when you know that they are nailing everything 100% and that they are there with you and you are there with them every step of the way. It's literally like it's seamless. Yes, there might be a couple of things that need to be tweaked along the way, but the communication and the response time and everything else is there with it. So you're in tune with each other. But when that is off,
Yes.
it's ridiculous. And you're fighting a losing battle. You know what I mean? And then at the end of the day, hard calls need to be made and people can go away and they have, not so nice things maybe to say about you and whatever. And it's not a case that you did a bad job or whatever. It's just you didn't get along. So nip it in the bud straight away. You know what
Yes.
I mean? If you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it. You know what I mean? But that's just how I am as a coach. I feel like when I gravitate towards somebody and we get on really well and we click is when the shit happens really quickly and we get great results. And then they want
Yeah.
to continue. They want to work with you. They want to do more by you because they respect you and they will do anything for you. And they know that you will do anything for them. And yes, people don't have coaches indefinitely for years and you would expect them at some stage to leave. But within the kind of the timeline of doing a lot of things together and building such a great relationship and rapport that when it comes to an end, it's all good because you've done things together, you've done great things together, you had great times together and you're still friends. It just maybe some person wants to leave to get different experience with different culture, whatever. That's totally fine. Do you know what I mean? But the mannerism and how it's done up to that point and how you've gone about building that rapport and that relationship is monumental, so that you can dissolve it or let it, whatever, break up and you're good. You know what I mean? And you want to see that person go on and do great things. Do you know what I mean? And
Yes. Yes.
that's really it. I mean, like, it doesn't need to be like a difficult process, but for me, that relationship and that rapport has to be there from day one.
Yeah. I just want to just go back and touch on where you said about, having setbacks in life. And actually, one of the funny things is, was it last year, or the year before? I
Okay.
had an accident at work and I
Wow.
herniated 2 discs in my neck. And I had to go for operation and everything. So I lost a lot of size. So I fell from 115 down to like 98 or something like that there. Okay. Funny enough, it didn't bother me as much as it bothered other people. Because people are like,
Yeah.
oh, you've lost your
Yeah.
size. How are you going to get it back? Are you
Yeah.
going to throw the towel in? And it's funny because now that I'm on my journey on the way back up and I'm
Yeah.
actually enjoying every day of it because it's kind of cool. It
Doing
feels
it
like
all over
I'm
again from the start.
reliving like my
Yeah.
novice life again
Yeah.
in a more professional manner. So it's interesting to see how things are changing. And these same people that had this negative outlook still have it till now. They're like, oh, why are you still doing this? Or they actually think I'm crazy the fact that I'm enjoying the
Yeah.
journey to get back to there, that kind of thing. And it's weird. It's just like people have such a defeatist
Yeah.
or give up
Yeah.
mindset,
But
and it's quite sad to
the
see
thing
that.
with bodybuilding is that bodybuilding is very much a cliche sport for people that are a little bit tapped. And I mean a little bit tapped in a good way because they see a setback as a goal. Like when I tore my Achilles, I snapped my Achilles in 2023, in the summer of 2023, stupidly enough, thinking I could go back and play rugby. And in the first training session, I
Yeah.
snapped my Achilles. And the doctors and all told me I'd never go back and squat and I'd never do this and I'd never do that. And I was just like, these guys don't know me. So like the Monday, I had the surgery
Yeah.
on the Thursday. The Monday I was out of the hospital, I was back in the gym with a moon boot on, training my opposite leg in crutches. And people were like, this guy's fucking insane. And I'm like, but you do realize if I train this
Yeah.
opposite leg, that this other leg is going to grow by 30% and it will still recover and help with the recovery. So when I went back to get my stitches out after 4 weeks,
Yes.
the doctor looked at me and goes, what have you been doing? Like real serious. Like I thought it was cagey. Like, well, what have you been doing? And I was like, I've been training. He goes, what do you mean you've been training? I was like, I've been doing weights. He goes, but you weren't supposed to be doing weights. You were supposed to be doing physio. Honest. No disrespect. I was like, but see that physio manual that you gave me? That was a physio manual for Joe Blogs who doesn't live in the gym. I live in the
Mm.
gym. Bodybuilding is my life.
Yeah.
So for you to tell me that I have to go and do these stupid routines that make no sense to me means that my recovery is going to be completely delayed, which means my mental health is going to suffer. I need to focus on the bigger picture here, which is getting my leg back. Okay. Within 4 weeks, I was back in the Smith machine squatting 2 plates aside with a moon boot. And when I told him that,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
lost his fucking shit. And I was just like, okay, well, take the stitches out and tell me if there's a problem. And he took the stitches out and he looked at me and he goes, yeah, honestly, he goes, it's healed so well. I was like, see, I was like, but I'm here, not the doctor, telling you about how I rehabilitated this with no growth hormone, with no peptides, with no gear, with nothing. I just did it natural because I knew what to do for my own body. I was just like, so you cannot tell me what I did was wrong. I knew that this is something that I needed to work towards for myself to come back better. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And that was a setback for me, but I seen that setback as something that I would learn from, something that I would get over, and that I knew that if I could do that, I could do anything. You know what I mean? And that is what I come back to when it comes to, like, people will have setbacks, whether that be a financial setback, whether that be something that's to do with their health, whether that's be to do with an injury, whether that's to be to do with a loss of life. But life goes on. And you cannot
Yes.
keep dwelling on the what ifs or the what happens or the what now do I do? Because if there's anything that bodybuilding can tell you or teach you, it's that there is always improvement to be made. You can never stop improving. You
Correct.
will always, even Mr. Olympia
Yeah.
wants to keep improving. So there is never a time in this game that you can sit on your ass and go, I'm good, because it's not. Because the moment you do that is the moment you're overtaken by the guy or the girl who is completely out hustling you. Even like you might look at this person at one point in the gym or whatnot, and or on stage, and think, oh, I've got them, I'll smoke them, all this, all that. But when then that is when you are at your most susceptible to being taken over. And that is not just to do with bodybuilding, that is to do with everything. Like, the minute you get complacent in your job is the minute somebody else that you didn't expect gets that promotion. The minute you get complacent in the gym is the minute that the guy who stood next to you like a year ago, who now is like in the gym with you, is looking better than you. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same as, like, you run your own business and you get like complacent and you think, oh, you know, it happens. Like, this is, coaching, people fall off, and yeah, they'll come back, and you don't do anything about it. When that happens, you will get lost. You will get
Yeah.
lost, and you will get, and you
100%.
people will forget about you, and you won't be known, or no, you won't be respected, or people won't want to come to you anymore. Because why? They can sense when you are like falling. You know what I mean? Like, if you are not gravitating towards being a better version of yourself on a consistent basis in everything, people can see that, and can see that you are losing yourself. Like, you're not on top of your
Yeah.
game. Oh, he
Yeah.
doesn't be on Instagram that much, or he's not posting that much, or seeing him in the gym doesn't look that great, or your boss from work is like, yeah, I mean, they're just kind of doing what the norm. I mean, they're not really doing much more. You know what I mean? Like, you have to always be upscaling in your life, whether that be in
Yes.
bodybuilding, whether that be in your
Yes.
job, whether that be in your business, whatever the fuck it is you're doing. If you're not trying to get up every single day to do more than what you did the next day, you will be beaten by somebody else who is willing to do that shit. And that is what it comes down to in life.
Yeah.
And I'm very much a case of person where I get up every day and I'll think to myself, okay, yesterday I did this, but tomorrow I'm going to do something different. As in, I'm going to do something more positive to work towards a better version of me.
Correct.
Like,
Yeah.
today I
Yeah.
woke up and I said, right, I've got my new split I'm working on at the moment, which is unbelievable. I'm loving it. I was like, I got the podcast with Wagner today. I've got, three clients I've got to start working on their so tomorrow, okay, what do I do? I wake up tomorrow. I've got to go do this. I've got to do that, but I've got to improve on, so I'm going to do more. I'm going to do this and do that, because I want to keep improving, not just as a bodybuilder, not just as a coach, not just as a partner, not just as a father, but as a human being as a whole. You know what I mean? And people can learn a lot from themselves as bodybuilders when they are putting themselves under the stress that they are putting themselves through on the daily, because you will be tested, and how you deal with that shit is how you will be determined throughout everything you do in life to whether or not you succeed. You see it all the time. People get so complacent and they get into their job and they just, I'm here now. Fuck it. I don't need to do anymore. I'm just 9 to 5. Doesn't bother me. I'm like,
Living
live
for
to pay.
payday
I don't
date, whatever it is. Yeah.
understand how people can live a life like that, because even if you're in a 9 to 5 job, which a lot of people are, there are still mountains to climb. If you are
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
parent like I am, okay, I want my kids to look up to me and go, my dad was, you know, a very successful businessman. He was well known in the industry. He was, this, he was that. And up until the day he died, he kept trying to be a better version of himself. You know what I mean? So that like they look to me like I'm their hero, or I'm like somebody who they would aspire to be. Like I don't want them to aspire to be somebody else, and I don't mean that in a selfish way. I want them to look at me and me be their inspiration. You know what I mean? Because that's how it should be.
Yes.
You know, and I think a lot of people get
Yeah.
very complacent because they think when they have kids, that's the job done. Raising them is just part of the kind of the resume. But it's how you raise your children or how you go about your life and do what you do will determine how they come out at the end. You know what I'm saying? Like my son is 5 years of age and he's in a go-kart championship team. Like he's competing at
Sick.
6 years of age. He's officially allowed to race in the championship, like at 6. And he's been practicing all year at 5 out in the track on a 65 km/h go-kart. And he's like lapping people. His reflexes, his instincts, his everything is unbelievable for a 5-year-old. And he has to wait till 60 to get his official license. But the kid is like a prodigy in race. He sees me in the gym. He watches my reels on Instagram. Like he's like, Papa, show me this. Papa, show me you in the gym. Papa, show me your muscles. Papa, show me this. But he's so interested in what I do. And he's 5. You know what I mean? And like, that makes
Yeah.
me motivated because I'm like, I'm going to keep improving. I'm going to keep doing better so that as he gets older and he can see me going into other different types of business ventures and things like that, that he respects it and he starts to learn it and he understands the hustle, you know, and it never ends because he wants to be at 5 years of age, a world championship driver. I didn't want to be fucking anything at 5 years of age. Do you know what I mean? Like my father was a singer and yes, I looked up to him and everything, but I never wanted to be a singer at 5 years of age. I never wanted to be, I was just playing with He-Man, you know? Well, he's 5 and he wants to be, his idol is Lando Norris in racing and he wants to be like a championship driver like Lando Norris. And I'm like, that's incredible. You know, so if I don't help to preserve that and keep that going for him, I've failed. You know what I mean? As a father, I haven't nourished it.
Yeah.
I haven't protected it. I haven't helped him with it. You know what I mean? He needs to be improved on that all the time to know that the sky is the fucking limit for him. You know, because how many people were good at something when they were younger, but maybe never got the backing to keep improve. You know this yourself from living in South Africa. How many people did you see that were like good at rugby, just fall to the wayside, you know, or never get any backing?
In pretty much everyday life, I saw that, you know, it's not just rugby and other sports and everything like that. Like, I actually sponsored a mate's competition that he was holding for, like a bodybuilding competition in like a township in the Eastern Cape. And the biggest eye opener for me was there were parents that were coming to watch their kids. Well, not watch their kids, coming to support their kids at the show, but didn't have the money to get in to watch their kids. Man, that was one of the biggest fucking heartbreaks of my life to actually realize that shit, there's certain things in life I actually fucking take for granted. You know what I mean? And I helped the parents out, nothing to brag about and stuff like that. But it's just, you know, certain shit goes on in life that you walk in and you complain because your eggs are cooked like shit and the drive home was crap. And, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Him at 5 and what he wants to do with his life is just unbelievable. And as far as I'm
How did that,
concerned as a father, like
how did that come up, by the way?
how did the driving come up?
Yeah.
My dad, my
Okay.
dad. Yeah. So my son goes to see my parents like once, twice a week. And, his mum would bring him over there. And, my dad is big into F1 and my dad loves Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my dad, like since he was 2, my dad would be watching like F1 and he'd have him on his lap and he'd show him like F1 and stuff. So when he was like 3 or 4 or something like that, we bought him like one of those electronic drifting cars. And he started like going around the state. But like I used to bring him down to the track here, like, and it's like a kind of a bike track, but it has like different turns and roundabouts and all this kind of stuff. And he'd come down with his drifting track and he'd be like ripping it around the track at like 3.5 years of age. And people would be like, he's so tiny on this thing with the little foot on the pedal. But he would be insane at calling corners and how to drift around it. Like, and he's just incredible. And I hate F1. So it's just like, I'm like, I don't know where that came from. But at the end of the day, like, it's something that he's disciplined in and wants to be good at. So like, I'm like, yeah, oh, and it's bloody expensive, but I'm like, yeah, all power to you. Like, you know what I mean? Like the kid has already got a head and the shoulders that I never had. So it's important for me to try and like, and his mum, obviously, his mum brings him a lot, is to, you know, make sure that he comes out of it like and has the opportunities that he has to keep doing well in it, you know. But again, it comes down to like the fact that me as a person and as a father is trying to lead by example and show him that like, don't just rest or settle for like average, you know, always try and do more to be better. You know what I mean? And I think the great thing about bodybuilding and being a bodybuilder and a coach is that the sky's the limit. Like, and what I mean by that is if you're willing enough to put your heart and soul into your trade and to be good at what you do, you can become extremely good at what you do and reap the rewards of that productivity. Like, there are coaches out there making a lot of money, and I am not driven by money in the slightest, okay, in that sense of the word. But I'm driven by um how can I say, like making sure that my family are protected. You know what I mean? In whatever way, shape, or form that may be. You know, making sure that the kids are left with enough when we're gone, that they have
Yes.
you know, something to live on, something to get forward on, something to have a step on in life. You know, get on the property ladder maybe, or get the first car, or go to college and go or university or whatever, because that wasn't given to me. And that's not a knock on my parents that just didn't have the ability to do that. But I would, and myself and Denise are very much a case whereby like we want the kids to have something to be able to step into their adulthood with, and to be able to propel them into, you know, that end of their life, not like panicking or worrying about where they can get this and this. Yes, we still want them to be able to learn how to earn things and how to, you know, that you have to work hard and things like that. And very much we do that as parents, but at the same time, we still don't want them to have to struggle, you know? So it's like how we go about, or how I go about, or how Denise goes about doing what we do now to create that for them is extremely important, you know? So that's why, like, I mean, like, you know, as a coach, you know, my weekends are like coaching, you know, like I've got to travel to shows. I got to travel to Portugal. I got to travel to here. I got to travel there. Like, there are times when I won't get to see my son. You know what I mean? But there are times that I have to sacrifice in order to make the to do what I need to do in order to cement that, not legacy for me, but legacy for him. You know, so that he has like a future and he can go to a college or a university and he can do this. So if I have to do that to make that kind of reputation and that kind of status for myself now, so that I can have a good career and put that kind of money and finance away for him, well, then so be it. Do you know what I mean? That's just how it is, you know. But when you love what you do, like we love what we do, it's not a chore. You know, it's not a chore. It's not difficult. It's not taxing. It's something that I absolutely love doing. I wouldn't do anything else, you know. But at the same time, it has a lot of responsibility towards being on, you know, at people's beck and call, answering text messages, answering check-ins quickly, answering people back, getting back to them when they ask you something, not delaying a response because it's important to them, because that's the service they provide. And people don't understand that. That's the part of coaching that's just difficult. Like, you never switch off. You know, your phone could go off at midnight. Your phone could go off at 6 a.m. You're on holidays for 2 weeks with the kids, but your laptop is there, your phone is there, you're still working. You know what I mean? It's not like it's not like I can turn around and go, okay, guys, I'm taking my 2 weeks annual break now, and so like just I'm shutting down for 2 weeks. So you just take care of yourselves.
We survived for 2 weeks. Yeah.
I'll sign out for 2 weeks. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, there's still like
Yeah. Yeah.
you're still doing your check-ins, you're still answering people on the daily, you still got your laptop with you and all that kind of stuff. So it is a very difficult job in that sense, because there is no clock off for 2 weeks, you know, or annual leave. You know what I mean? Like Stevens' Day at Christmas, I'm still doing bloody check-ins, still answering people's text messages back about what's okay. Like, I can't just turn around and go, it's fucking Christmas, fuck off. You know what I mean? Like, you still got to be responsible. And that's what being a good coach is all about, and understanding that it is part of the game. You know what I mean? But wouldn't have it any other way, bro. Wouldn't have it any other way.
Well, Panda, man, thank you for coming on the podcast, man. It is honestly an honor talking to you, and it was fucking great. And man, I have so much respect for you, especially the way you view things as a professional businessman and trying to do things for your family. I have the utmost respect for men that hustle hard for their family. Like,
Appreciate it, man.
honestly, yeah. So I just want to have one last question for you, and is that, do you have any advice for people out there? Doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be in bodybuilding. It can be anything. Starting a sport, starting a business, anything. What advice do you have for them? Or even
Believe in
positive
yourself.
words or anything?
Back yourself. 100% back yourself from the beginning, and believe in the vision or the goal that you have. And with that comes collectively then the responsibilities or the things that you need to do in order to make that a reality. Like if when I left my day job 2 years ago to pursue this as a career full time, and I remember I just walked out on the day and I told Denise, and she just turned and looked at me and goes, make it work. Don't regret it. Make it work. And I just went to town on making it work and did things that other coaches weren't willing to do. Like, like putting on the training camp, for example, the other week I did, because I want to inspire bodybuilding, not just from Team Panda or Panda Performance perspective, but to everybody that loves what I love, to share that with people, to show them the benefits and the beauties of the bodybuilding community as a whole. And there are people out there who would aspire to be professional bodybuilders. There are people out there who would aspire to be good coaches or to be a lawyer or to be a solicitor or to be whatever. But a lot of the times, the people who you share those dreams with in your life won't share them back with you. They will tell you straight away that you're crazy. They will tell you straight away that you're dreaming or that you're aiming too high or that you should probably simplify your goal or your dreams or your aspirations a little bit more. But to those people who say that to you, they just don't have anything that's on the same level as you in terms of what you believe in. And
100%.
they don't have a goal like what you do, because they are just probably just not motivated enough to even think outside of the box or to think outside of the bubble that they're in. And they've created this small little universe for themselves to live in quietly. And that's how they want to live their life. If you don't want to live your life like that and you want to live your life up there in the clouds, well, then just go for it. But 100% back yourself in every single thing that you do. And you will, as I said before, have those setbacks. You will have times when it feels like it's all crumbling around you. How you deal with that situation will fundamentally be the outcome of you in the future as a whole. Like when you look back on your career or you look back on your success, how you dealt with the failure will have been the determining factor of that success, and whether or not you actually managed it well or whether, you could have done it better. But where you landed as a whole, are you satisfied with that as a whole? Because I want to look back on myself when I'm gone and think to myself, I did it my way and I did it without any repercussions or regrets. And let's face it, we are in a sport here which doesn't exactly give us a huge, vast timeline on this planet. And so every single day is a blessing. And how you deal with that blessing every single day will determine whether or not you're going to live your life on your terms and end it the way you hoped you would. You know what I mean? So if you're not doing the things that you need to do on the daily to work towards those goals and dreams that you have, you're losing time inevitably on what you could be achieving on a daily basis to get there. So just back yourself, do what you got to do to get there. And when the setbacks come, learn from them and get on with them and go and keep going.
Fantastic, man. Thank you very much, man.
You're very welcome, brother.